he didn't.
Girl. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Ooh.
Welcome to Oh No, Girl Yes, the podcast. Well, we do talk about Oh No, Girl Yes, it is. And somehow we always have content, Robin. Why do we always have content?
You really want me to answer that?
Yes, I need to know why would this podcast always sustain itself. Oh,
yeah.
Anyway,
about
follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You want to get into the Patreon. Patreon gets more than what the general public gets because we feel like if you supporting the podcast, you deserve a little extra juice and spice, and we give names, dates, and birthdays. All right. So, do we have any other official business before we get into today's topic?
Welcome back. Did you say welcome
back? You see, I realized I didn't put no lotion on my, and I said I cannot do the podcast with crunch elbows. So excuse me, I just got excited seeing you again and realized I wasn't quite ready. Okay, girl, I'm ready for you now. Woo! I'm excited. New year, new things, new ideas. Maybe we should start with 2021. Let's not talk about 2020. What are you most excited about in 2021 outside of it not being 2020?
Oh, okay. So you scratched out my top person.
I know. That's everybody's number one.
So I am excited. I'm always excited when a new year begins, period. Because there are some things and people that I have left that have nothing to do with the pandemic of 2020 or anything like that I plan to, I don't know. It's a fresh start.
Fresh start.
I guess I would start there. It is a fresh start, a new day, a new year to get it right.
Get it right, or at least it's always. I don't know if you ever get it right.
You don't ever get it right, but every year you should get close. You know what I mean? Just
right.
Like
I'm excited about having a plan to try to get better. Mm-hmm. Sometimes my get right, it seems so distant for me, and that's even on a good day. Where I'm
it's baby steps. It's always every day. If every day you get better.
We encourage everybody just adopt them baby steps. Don't get discouraged when you can't see your way on the other side of the mountain. Just take the first step, and then record an episode about it.
And then tag your daddy.
And then tag your daddy. She has on an Oh No Girl Yes shirt. If y'all can't see it, hashtag tag your daddy. You can. We're gonna put out some more merchandise this year too. 2021 is the year of growth for all.
I'm excited. Yes, I'm excited about everything we can have planned for the podcast.
Very excited. Very more events and all that stuff. Some virtual, some otherwise. We claiming vaccinations. Okay. So the way we want to start this season off is basically an update from last season. So if you are new to the podcast, please do yourself a favor. Go back and listen to every other episode before right now, so you can really enjoy it. And those who have been listening, welcome back. We really appreciate y'all. We miss you. But we have some life updates and from before we took hiatus. So did you have a life update you wanted to offer in anything from our last episode or our last season maybe?
Sorry, I don't, guys. I don't have. I didn't have anything.
I was put on the spot. Like, I feel like I have too much content for the podcast. That's what I'm saying.
Because that's the thing. We left with you having content and I didn't have content. And we're kind of like, I didn't have content and I didn't create any either. I'm sorry, y'all. I just been chilling.
It's been a pandemic. You're going to get a pass from me just because it's a pandemic. But otherwise, I feel like I can't just be having all the horror stories and dating for the show. Obviously, I'm going to come well prepared. I do my homework. I'm going to always have a new story. Well, my life update, I would say is an exciting one, right? Okay. So I am single.
Yes.
Last podcast, I was not single. I feel like the last podcast I was talking about, I would rather be engaged, but not sure that I wanted to get married.
Right.
Single as a Pringle. So I wanted to share the story of how and why I became single.
Okay.
Things that we have understood in my becoming single and the excitement I feel about being single. So anybody who's listening, don't feel any from this because it ain't that kind of story. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
I feel like people like your mom, my mom, and more like, I don't like the story, but I feel like you and I being on the streets, I'm like, no, all good.
Perfectly fine.
This is good. All right, so let's start the story. The recap is I reconnected with my ex-boyfriend from 17 years ago during the pandemic, last June of 2020. I shared on the podcast, and also especially with Patreon, we had this reconnection. We decided to be a couple again, and I was so impressed with the fact that one of the things that impressed me most about the reconnection and why I did reconnect with him is because he has pursued me for 17 years. And, you know, it was like, well, yeah, I can look at text messages and emails from 17 years of him reaching out and me shutting them down, and him reaching out and me shutting them down. And so, in addition to it being a pandemic, I also felt special. I felt like, who else can say somebody chased them for 17 years? And I also had the memory of 17 years prior when I dated him. He was a great guy. It was a great relationship until it wasn't. And that's why we broke up. So in the reconnection, he lived long distance, and we lived, you know, a 13-hour drive away from each other. So part of why I gave him those points is because I was impressed that he had been pursuing me for 17 years. We were long distance. I don't hate a long distance relationship, but of course you got to get creative and put forth effort. Now, you were excited about the reconnection from the beginning because there was some effort being made on his part. Can you speak to that?
Well, I mean, besides the fact that he was pursuing you for 17 years and we overlooked this guy, I think he did make an effort in the beginning. He did what he needed to do to grab your attention. Whether it was, you know, stopping by, you know, coming into town and reaching out to see you, whether it was sending flowers, whether it was calling, FaceTiming. I felt like he was showing you something that was worth paying attention to.
I agree. And so at the very beginning, I told him I just need consistency and communication, and let's just see. And so he provided those things, consistency and communication. So the way we end up going off the rails is maybe about, let me see, I didn't even count up. Maybe, 2-3 months in, I started seeing less consistency and less communication. And because I know that's how he was last time, when I started seeing these things, I made sure I pointed out to him, hey, we're not doing this thing you said we're going to do. It was like, we're going to see each other at least once a month. We had no plans to do that ever. And every time I suggested, hey, well, can we get a plan? Because one, I need to, financially make plans, professionally make plans, puppy sitting. It was always a brush off on making plans. So ultimately it came down to, he came to town to bring his mom back in town. That's a whole nother story. His mom spent 3 weeks with him at his home. At no point in the 3 weeks did he and I FaceTime and talked regularly, but he never said, hey mom, Eunice said hi. Eunice's mom said hi. After 2 weeks of his mom being there in his 1-bedroom loft, I said, is it odd that your mom doesn't say anything to me or I don't say anything to your mom? And he just blew it off. No. Oh, well, no, I'll that's on me. And so for the next week that she was still there, he just never called me from the house again. It was always, he was at work, he was in the car. So after that week, I said, hey, don't think I didn't notice that once I said something about your mom, you didn't call me from the house. No, it's not like that. So it was so many moments that I would tell him that I had a concern about something. His response would be, no, it's not like that. But it would be that. So he came to town to bring his mom back. He was supposed to spend the weekend with me. I had my book signing that morning. He surprised me by coming to my book signing, by coming into town earlier, and then proceeded to make the entire weekend just horrible for me. And so after that weekend where he broke up with me and then he changed his mind and did not want to break up, it was about 3 weeks after that horrible visit. Again, no plans being made, no acknowledgments of how horrible the weekend was to say, hey, I want to make this up to you. I want to change this or fix this, nothing. And then the final straw was maybe it was one weekend, it was a 4-day span. We went without speaking to each other. Mm-hmm. And I don't need to talk to you every day. Even if you're my boyfriend, I don't have to talk to you every day. And I was rationalizing how I didn't need to talk to him every day. But on the 4th day, when we did finally communicate, I felt him to be dismissive and patronizing. And then, he called after 4 days and said, oh, what has my girlfriend been up to the last few days? Your girlfriend? Who's your girlfriend, sir? But what put me over the edge was, it was Tuesday when he called and he says, oh, I bought a new car Saturday. And I just felt like that is just such common, basic information you would share with people that know you. It ain't even gotta be your best friend. It'd be you sitting in the finance office for a few hours. You would take a picture and say, "Hey, look what I'm doing today. It's not my money. It's not my credit." But I just felt, okay, if this dude ain't sharing something as basic as I bought a new car 4 days ago with me, this ain't my party. So I kind of made that conscious decision from that conversation. I was telling him how I was feeling in that conversation. He had to go do something for work and said he would call me back so we can continue the conversation. He did not call me back, so that kind of confirmed what I already felt about the situation. He called later that night, and I didn't have anything to say. I just held the phone, and I was waiting for him to say, well, I wanted to continue our conversation from this morning. I was waiting for him to say, I'm sorry I didn't call you back when I told you I was going to call you back this morning. None of those things were said. He ended the call by saying, after we held the phone for 10 minutes in silence, he said, well, I just wanted to call and hear my girlfriend's voice. And that was the last time he heard it. He never called again. He never texted again. I have never looked for another phone call or text. I never thought I would ever call or text him again. So at the point that we're recording this, I think that's been a month and a half ago. So we've had Thanksgiving in between. We've had Christmas and New Year's in between. And so I say all that to say, yes, it's disappointing. Another relationship didn't work out. However, the positive is, and this is what I really want us to focus on in this conversation about it. It's not just to talk about, oh, well, we broke up and he sucks. It's really for us to talk about more what we can control or what we should expect or what we should allow in relationships. And throughout the entire relationship with him, I was very honest with my friend. I would say to you things that bothered me or that were concerning. Are there any things that stand out to you that I shared with you throughout the relationship?
Well, I think it was around maybe Memorial Day weekend last year, or it was a holiday weekend. I can't remember which one.
It was in September. Is that Labor Day or?
Was it Labor? Oh, it was Labor Day. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember, we were out playing tennis as we do. But I remember you having an issue because this was another weekend where you hadn't talked to him for a few days or hadn't heard from him.
Yeah, so it was a pattern that sometimes it disappeared. Right,
but and I think the issue with that is because he was, very consistent at some points by, FaceTiming you first thing in the morning. It's not that you necessarily asked for that. You even said, this probably isn't necessary. But because he was so consistent, when it fell off, on those times when it fell off, it was alarming. It was like an alarm went off. However, so that was one thing. And then, but even in that, you were trying to talk yourself out for ledge.
I would call you and say, hey girl, talk me off this ledge. Because I would be over it in those moments. Right.
You would be like, okay, maybe I'm not a good girlfriend, or maybe I don't understand what this is. But I think, hindsight is always perfect.
Always.
It's always perfect.
That's the thing. Usually I'm lying to myself and then I can look back and be like, girl, you're lying to yourself. This one is different for me because I was being honest the whole time.
Right.
What was happening.
But you were being honest with me, but you weren't acting on that honesty when it came to him.
Right.
You were holding yourself back with him.
Okay, I'm trying.
Now, I'm not saying you didn't complain and you didn't make your concern.
I would say it out loud. I would say it to you. I would say it to him. And I would convince myself to stay. Yeah.
Right. You were not acting on the feelings that you felt like, okay, this probably isn't going to work.
Right.
Or I'm not, you know what I mean? So yeah, you were being honest about it, but you were trying to not be the person that caused the relationship to not work.
I was trying not to be the person I always been. And that person has always been single. That person has always said, nope, this ain't working, I'm out. So I was challenging myself. I would tell you I was having growth moments.
Right.
So this is a growth moment for me. But really, again, hindsight, right? I was just trying to convince myself to believe something that I knew was not true for me.
Right.
And there's this thing as a single woman, especially a 45-year-old single woman who's never been in a long-term adult relationship, never been engaged, never been married. There is this thing where you will start believing, how is it that everybody else can be in a relationship but me? It's like everybody else has figured this thing out but me. So the fact that the things that were frustrating to me and upsetting me, I would give voice to. I would not just talk to you about it. I would talk to him about it. I would say, hey, I don't like this. Or I would, and he would say, it's not like that. Okay. But it also just shows me how many people are in relationships just trying to get along Now they have kids, they have a house, they have a business, they have integrated finances, all the things I didn't have. And I was trying to make that work. Long distance, I was doing more than I should have tried to make it work. And I think about how many people are in it deep trying to make it work.
Yeah. I think what sucks the most about, and then we're gonna let this go after this, but what sucks the most about this most recent relationship for you, and I think this is where our moms look at it, is because when it was over, or when that last conversation you had, you haven't heard from him since. That tells you everything you need to know about that, what that relationship was to him.
Right.
And it was BS from the beginning.
It was BS from the beginning, but also what I have learned since, and I've been sharing with you, is he is a narcissist, right? And so the part that's been most disappointing for me is not that I haven't heard from him, is that he is textbook narcissist, so I don't even feel special. Yeah. I'm learning that this is what they do. And so in learning that that's who he is, I don't feel any heartache. I feel only relief. I feel only relief because I'm not anywhere trying to love a narcissist anymore. And I didn't have that word 17 years ago, but I knew he was a great guy. And then I knew at some point he wasn't, and it was over, right? And so because I'm not who I was 17 years ago, I gave him the benefit, which I never give people the benefit of the doubt, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt because I said, I'm not who I was 17 years ago. And he has been trying for 17 years to get me back. Well, I have learned in retrospect that rejection to a narcissist becomes an obsession. That's who's going to end up stalking you. It's the ex-boyfriend who cheated on you and did you wrong, and you broke up with him, and now he's stalking you. And it's like, dude, you didn't even want me when I was there. So that now reframes that 17 years for me. That 17 years was not, oh, wow, he wanted me for 17 years. I rejected him 17 years ago. And because of his narcissist mind, he had to get me back to treat me bad again. So a narcissist does it. For anybody listening, if you've ever tried to love a narcissist, you might be a narcissist, or you might be in a situation right now. I encourage you to read up on this, because you will. I feel like it's freeing to know it wasn't you. Right? Now, we all have our own issues. I have my own things why I draw that kind of person to me. I'm doing a lot of self-care work for me. Right now, most of my self-care is really professionally based, on how I stay in my way professionally, but also still that spills over into my personal expectations too, of what I deserve and what I require. So anybody who's listening to this, we are not licensed in any way, but we can just direct you to get a book from somebody who is licensed and set an appointment with somebody who got, skills on this. But what I have learned is I will always draw that type person to me, as long as I am the type person I've been, as an empathetic person, as a caring person, as a loving person who just oozes love and care. Someone who has no love, no internal love, will always want my energy. They will always want what I have. Not to return it, but it's like a supply. It's a energy force for them. And so then, whereas the loving person ends up depleted and broken, that person has now got super strength power to go do it to whoever many else. So another thing I've learned is, because he became more distant and less accommodating, like I have jokingly said, looking back, oh girl, your boyfriend did not like you. And I have a list of things that I might share of how I know he didn't like me, but it's because he more than likely found another power supply. And so having that understanding of, this doesn't make sense. Why would it's called love bombing. He love bombed me at the beginning. All this attention, all this consistency, and got me conditioned to that's what he does. And then they do, and these are all narcissistic personality disorder terms I've learned since. Then they breadcrumb you. So they're not doing what they did to get the reaction, but you've been conditioned to give the reaction, but they're doing less. They're not doing what they did. They're breadcrumbing you. Then they start devaluing you. And it shows up in different ways. He never insulted me. He never cursed me out. It wasn't a physically, abusive situation that some people are in. But the way he would devalue me would be by not returning phone calls, not returning text messages, always being distracted when we would talk. That's how he kind of helped me turn my own volume down and say, well, why would I say anything? Well. So, and then even in the no contact where we are now, based on him having his personality disorder, he will contact me one day. He will. And we already know how that goes. There will never be any contact ever from me in the history of life again. And I've even gone back and forth. We're still Facebook friends. I don't unfriend exes. I don't block exes. And I'm torn on whether I should block him because I don't want that to heighten his need to do more. I feel like, listen, this is your mental illness. If you can just consume me from a distance, whatever, do that. But I almost feel like it would heighten it in a way that I really wouldn't want if I blocked him from being able to consume me from a distance.
Has he consumed any of your stories that you noticed?
Early on, the first few weeks, I told you I would see his name in my stories the first few weeks, but not recently. Yeah. And so that's the only reason I haven't done that, because again, it still comes to a safety issue, a issue of I'm not trying to have anything less than peace in my life. And then you don't know what somebody's true motivations are when you are in a situation like this, right? Yeah. So it's not like I'm saying I think he would harm me or hurt me or I'm scared for my life. I just don't want to heighten anything that doesn't have to.
You don't want to incite anything that doesn't have to be.
Right. And so if that means you can go on my page and look at my pictures, whatever, because I'd rather you do that than to feel like you need to be sitting out in my driveway to see me check the mail.
Right.
And so honestly, y'all, I never had one tear about it. Now I had a lot of tears the last time he was here in town. And I think I was live texting you how horrible the evening and morning was going when he was here.
Right.
And I was always very well aware, we ain't gonna make it. I was texting you, we gonna break up. This ain't gonna be it. Like, this ain't it.
Right. I would love to hear from some of our listeners who are in healthy relationships or what they think are healthy relationships, because a lot of times we're taught, whether it's through music or movies, that the struggle love is what you have to have. You know what I mean? Like, you have to struggle to get this.
The ups and downs, through thick and thin, it ain't been easy.
Ever after. Yeah. And I don't like that message. I know that love isn't easy. I know that relationships aren't going to come to you easy, but I think the simplicity of, returning a phone call, I think we're not out here asking men, or men are not asking women. I'll keep it on both sides. To do the most. We're asking you to treat us like humans. And if you can't treat me like a human and honor just basic respect for me, then you don't like me. Like you said, you just don't like me.
You don't like me. And that's the thing. When you say we're not looking for them to do the most, at that point, we're looking for them to do the least. Call me back. Respond to a text. That's the least you can do, actually. In that moment, that is the least. Like, if you were going to do nothing extra or nothing with any thought or care, the least you could do. And so I want to give some examples of how I realized my boyfriend didn't like me.
Okay.
He was saying, I love you. But he did not like me. Let's just say off the rip. It does not have to be a romantic relationship for you to like somebody.
Right.
It might be a colleague at work or somebody on social media. You just like them. You don't want to date them. You don't love them, but you just like them. I really like them. And just because you like that person, there's certain things you would not do to that person. You ain't got to know them. You ain't got to have a I wouldn't do that. I like them. So when somebody is doing things that they wouldn't do to somebody they like, it's glaring. It's glaring. So, and it's interesting because even though he was saying, I love you, I could tell he didn't like me. Okay, so let me give you some examples of how I know my boyfriend didn't like me. We mentioned the basic calling back, texting back. So one week, I was working on something professionally, and I just met somebody at this office. And I asked this person that I just met at this office, could they help me do something? And they said, sure. And so they were helping me do this task, and we didn't finish. And I said, well, I'll come back tomorrow. And they said, great, I'll be here tomorrow. And I went back the next day, and that person was really busy, so they couldn't help me. But they said, but I'll be here tomorrow. I said, great. The third day, that person found my phone number. Because again, we're not friends, we're not colleagues. I just met them at this office. This person found my phone number, sent me a text that morning that said, hey, I want you to know I'm not going to be there today. So I didn't want you to come up there, and I wasn't there. That person got so much respect for me. And it heightened the fact that in that same course of time, my boyfriend wasn't calling me back. My boyfriend wasn't letting me know plans and things that changed. My boyfriend wasn't letting me know not to be looking for him at a certain time. It was, oh, well, I'm here now. Oh, well, I'm here now. And it was a heightenedness of a stranger showing me basic consideration as a human that my boyfriend wasn't doing, that was glaring for me. Because in the moment that someone is really trying to convince you that you're asking for too much, you're asking for too much. Asking me to reply to your text messages or call you back is too much. Yeah. You're being irrational. That's gaslighting.
Right.
You're insecure.
Let me interject. because you keep saying responding to text messages or calls. You are not blowing up this man's phone.
Oh, no.
They call him once and he doesn't respond. You may ask him a specific text message once and he doesn't respond. This is not one of those things where somebody is obsessed with someone and they keep calling and it's like, all I can do is ignore this person to stop them from reaching out. This was not that. They were dating. They were together. They were official. And she called and he didn't respond for however many. Yeah, for days. It wasn't like she was calling back to back to back. No.
Thank you for making that clarification. Because, yeah, people don't know when I say not responding to calls or texts. I'm the person, as you can hear on a previous podcast, that a person can have a whole family on another coast of the country because I'm not that needy for constant communication and I don't need you to pin your location. We all grown ups. We do what we want to do. I'm thinking we're doing what we said we want to do. So thank you for making that clarification. So by the time someone's not responsive to me, I know it's a problem because I ain't looking for you every day. I ain't looking for you all day. I ain't looking for you every minute, So by the time that I actually noticed, I think that last weekend where there was no conversation, it wasn't until Sunday that I realized that I hadn't heard from him since Friday. And it was just when is he okay? Because I hadn't heard from him since Friday. It wasn't how come I hadn't heard from him since Friday? I actually had a genuine concern of, I sent him a text on Friday he didn't respond to. And I sent him a text on Saturday he didn't respond to. Those days came and went, and it didn't even cause me concern. It wasn't until Sunday that I think, I wonder if he's okay. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And I guess he was okay. Now that I know my boyfriend didn't like me. Anytime we were spending time together or planning to spend time together, he always was leaning towards how to spend the least amount of time. So it was never... I remember you recently shared a story where, you wanted more time on the trip. That's what people do when they enjoy spending time with you. Mm-hmm. I was with my boyfriend, and it was when we officially became official in his city, a 13-hour drive away. I was flying back home, and I was scheduled to leave on a Sunday, and it was Saturday morning. And I woke up and I was like, what are we going to do today? I leave tomorrow. And he said, this was early on in this relationship, he said, is there any way you can leave today? To which I thought was a joke. Mm-hmm. I was like, what are you talking about? My flight's tomorrow. He's like, yeah, but my fraternity is having this service project. And I just got the email. I just got the email just now. And it's in the morning. So could you leave today? Can you see if you can find a flight to leave today? Now, as my boyfriend is asking me, can I leave an entire day earlier for him to do something with his fraternity? I said to him, as I'm looking up the flight on my phone, you better be glad I got a good life to go back to and I miss my dogs. Because for something lesser, this would be a problem. Mm-hmm. And I said that because it was not okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I tried to rationalize, we spent a nice amount of time together. We moved the needle forward in the relationship. I do miss my house and my dogs. I rationalized, okay, but that was glaring that, your boyfriend don't like you. Not like that. Mm-hmm. Every other time that we ever tried to spend time together, I was always given a window that I would have him. And then the rest of the time, his family lives in my state, lives in Alabama. So when he would come to Alabama, obviously you're going to spend time with your family. Obviously. But it would always come down to, I can only be with you until this time and then I have to be there. And it would be, I can spend Friday with you and then Saturday, Sunday, I'm there. And I would be like, why wouldn't you spend Friday, Saturday with me and then spend Sunday there? Or, So after he brought his mom to him and had her there for 3 weeks and then brought her back here and was supposed to spend the weekend with me, the fact that he did not spend the weekend with me and the parts of the weekend he did spend with me were him telling me about how he was about to leave me. And again, it becomes more glaring when I see how strangers interact with me. It becomes more glaring. I mean, I knew it was a thing when it happened. I called you, I'm texting you, I know this is a problem in real time. But then I can meet a stranger and a stranger say, hey, can you do this at this time so that way we can have more time to do that? Because I don't want you to come in. And it's like, yeah, that's what people do. They want to spend as much time with you as possible. They want to have the best benefit of the time. Mm-hmm. Not my boyfriend. My boyfriend was always trying to figure out where he had to be next. Anytime I tried to plan something. So I told you I have not spoken to this ex-boyfriend since that last time There were no flights to cancel, no hotels to cancel, no changes to this calendar because there was nothing planned. I have now learned there's an actual term for that. It's called future faking that narcissists do. They say, oh, we're going to do this. I've got one for you, sister. You're going to love this one. You're going to love this right here. Future faking with this one. So one time, he asked me my shoe size, my favorite color, and what was it? My height and weight.
Your height and your weight.
He needed this for something he was getting me.
And what was that beautiful thing that he got you? Y'all gotta
and it got to the point where I had no idea what this thing was. He asked me for these odd combinations, your shoe size, your height, your weight, and your favorite color. I told you about it.
Hold up. Weren't you on the phone with him one time when he was going through the website?
Going through the website.
Selecting whatever it was?
Selecting the things, whatever it was. Tell me what it is. No, you're going to have to sign for it. You're going to have to sign for it. Okay. Also, one time I said to him, you know what's messed up about whatever this surprise is? You shouldn't have told me nothing about it. Because now the fact you haven't done it, it's almost like I'm asking you for something that I don't even know about. Now I'm like, hey, what's that thing? Hey, where's that thing? Hey, remember that time you said you were sending me? Hey, what's that? Because one, I was just curious. I don't need or want anything. I'm just curious. But that's an actual term, future faking. Oh, we're going to see each other at least once a month. Future faking. Okay? Also, where you know your boyfriend don't like you, is he will buy you a coat from Costco. Okay, let's move on. He bought me this puffy hooded jacket from Costco. I have a coat closet. And I didn't know why he bought me this coat from Costco. And I think he was probably disappointed in my reaction to the coat because I was like, oh, wow, thank you. Yeah, it fits. Thanks. But I'm also thinking, okay, I guess. And this isn't me being ungrateful. This isn't it being from Costco. It was just confusing.
It was probably, you think he even bought the coat?
I mean, it had tags on it.
What I'm saying is, was it a gift gifted to him? Was it a unisex thing where he was like, you know what? I'm going to give this to my girlfriend because that's a nice thing to do because that's that shows a nice gesture and, I think that's.
I don't know. I don't know.
But surely he didn't walk in.
But this isn't coming down to the cost or, it's not me being ungrateful because I'm not a material person at all.
This is what narcissists do. And there's another term for those people too. Gaslighters a little bit too, right. Because it falls under those same categories where they do things like show up to your book signing as a surprise, or they do things. So when they tell their side of the story, they come off as the hero.
Right.
They're doing things, but not performative.
Performative gestures. Because when he surprised me, which he didn't really surprise me, I kind of knew he was going to do it. But when he surprised me, one, my book signing became about him because everyone that showed up, I was like, oh, this is my boyfriend. He surprised me. He lives in Texas. So it became about him. And the second the book signing was over, he left me.
Mm-hmm. When it was time to spend time together.
When it was time for us to spend time together, he left. Mm-hmm. But he knew I had taken pictures and that I was telling people. So the performance was, wow, he is such a great boyfriend. He was there for your first book signing. What was really happening was, man, he really made that about him and now he's gone. All of which I was communicating in real time. Mm-hmm. That was not lost on me that this is what was happening. So yeah, oh, he bought you a coat, whatever. So by the time I'm feeling what I'm feeling about, why would he buy me this coat? Okay. So it's not about, not being grateful, but he would do these performative gestures. Wow, he drove 13 hours to see you. Wow, these things that he knew I would tell my friends because you know what he would say? What did Robin say? Mm-hmm. What did Robin say? What your mama say? Because he know I'm probably not telling them, which I was, all the stuff he did that I didn't like. Mm-hmm. Because I'm sitting there trying to accept it. I'm sitting there trying to convince myself of it. So in his world, I'm okay with this. And then I tell them the highlights. But I was telling them the lowlights the whole time and saying, man, I really can't figure out how to be in a relationship because I see people are having really bad situations with men, whether it's, like I said, abuse or cheating and all that. And I didn't feel like I was suffering those things, but I was not being fulfilled with that relationship. Mm-hmm. Because I am a writer and a comedian and an actress and a performer and a creative, I felt like the fact that we would FaceTime and he would show me his vegetables in the freezer from Costco, I felt like that was more reflective on me having too high of an expectation of what people talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I know I didn't want to talk about his vegetables from Costco. I knew I wasn't interested in it. I knew, but then I would say, well, I guess that's just a relationship. You know, every day ain't Broadway. You know. When he would say very, very stupid things, which was awful. I convinced myself that I could get my intellectual stimulation from other places. Maybe not him, but you know what? I got friends, I got people I can talk to and have the intellectual stimulation I desire. So all the things, I was very honest about what I was lacking in the space with him. And then I will follow up with, well, okay, I mean, everybody else is figured out. I'm just being unrealistic. I have a different idea. And we've talked about it. Are we unrealistic in what we think this is? Are we unrealistic?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's still a level, I think my unrealistic expectations of relationships never showed up in that. My realistic expectations that were not being met was that someone would call you or at least call you back. We use the example of when you and I, when we call each other, I don't know where you are, what you're doing. You got 15 jobs and hustles. I got 15 hustles. You got family. We got different things going on. If you see I called you, even if you don't call me back that day,
mm-hmm.
at whatever point you call me back, you say, hey, girl, I saw I missed your call.
Mm-hmm.
And you tend to offer, and people, I'm saying you, but also people, I was doing such and such. I was having a crazy day. Because it's an acknowledgement of you called me, I did not respond. It has been a day or two. It could be a month. Girl, I'm sorry I ain't called you. Girl, I know if I ain't heard from you, I just pray for you and hope you okay. There is an acknowledgement of I did not respond to your call or text. Mm-hmm. Girl, I am so sorry. I thought I hit send. Girl, I am just realizing I did not respond to the text you sent me last week. Mm-hmm. That is what people who respect and care for each other do. So when you have a boyfriend that doesn't do that, and when you say, well, is it odd that you wouldn't call me back or respond to any text message or call for 4 days? Oh, well, it's not like that. Well, I'm talking to you now. That's what he would do. Well, I'm here now. On that last weekend, I called you to talk me off the ledge. Because he told me he would be back at my house after he left me after the book signing, said he would be back between 6 and 7. I wasn't into that anyway. I said, let's just say 6, but okay, 6 to 7. At 7 o'clock, he called to tell me he was still an hour and a half away because he hadn't left. And so I said, well, but you knew you weren't going to be here at 7 at 6. So why did you tell me that at 6? So that way I could have spent this time doing something else versus waiting for you to be here. Well, I'm on my way now. When he got to my house, I said again, hey, let's talk about why you wouldn't tell me at 6 o'clock that you was going to be 2 hours late, because that's just disrespectful. Like, I just don't even understand why you don't think at 6 o'clock you knew you weren't going to be here at 7. Let me know at 6 o'clock. Hey, it's going to be later than I thought. Hey, it's going to be closer to 8:30. Don't call me at 7 to tell me you're an hour and a half away. I'm here now. Let's just go to dinner. I'm here now. Let's just go to dinner. So now I'm kind of feeling like I'm ruining the evening. Mm-hmm. I'm messing up dinner. That's all gaslighting, for the technical term. But anyway, child, I said all that to say, yes, I'm single. Yes, I'm relieved that I don't have to keep being talked off the ledge weekly. Yeah. I don't think that's how a healthy relationship should go. And honestly, y'all, if you're listening and you have been talked off the ledge a few times, sometimes you do need to go ahead and jump. Yeah. That's the only reason. It's a lot of people living on that ledge all the time.
And I still want to clarify, and Eunice is not, and rightfully so, I mean, it's none of y'all's business, but she is not sharing the worst of the worst. She's giving y'all very surface level.
Well, I figure it might be part 2. I figure
it might be. But what I'm saying is, and it'll probably come up in future episodes and when we're talking about different topics and stuff like that. But I don't want y'all to take this as surface level issues, because they weren't surface level. I know how they can come off if you don't know the background of everything, So please.
Yeah, because I'm trying to offer basic concepts, and I see what you're saying. It might come off as what? That's just little bit stuff. Right. Yes, it was deeper and more stuff that, out of the sake of, I don't know, is it privacy? I don't know. Some stuff you don't even tell your best friend, or you get them.
Because I didn't learn about something. Told her. Right. Yeah, she's told me almost everything, but every once in a while she'll be like, you know what, I never did tell you.
I'll remember something. Yeah.
And it's like,
I told you this part. Right. And so y'all podcast listeners work with me as I remember what I tell y'all. And then as I grow, as I heal, I'm like, okay, I feel strong enough now in my own right mind again. And I let that dude say that. Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, because it was something stupid he said. You even told me some of the stupid things he said, like that weren't very intelligent, but it was one other thing, and you were like, I didn't know this. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
hilariously sad.
I mean, y'all, yeah. We'll pick it up in another episode.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just do too much, but I wanted to get the life update. I am single. The other life update is I am dating. So very shortly after my realization that I was never going to talk to this person again. And let me clarify. After our last conversation, I knew I was never going to talk to him again. I did not know he was never going to call or text again.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that because we didn't break up. We didn't have a conversation. We didn't have an argument. The last thing he said was, oh, well, I was just calling to hear my girlfriend's voice. And I said, okay, this is after we held the phone 10 minutes. So even though I knew I was done, I did not know he was not going to ever call or text again. Mm-hmm. But shortly after knowing I was done, which was about 15 minutes after I hung up, I went back to the dating app.
This episode is brought to you
by Bumble. And I started swiping. Now, Robin will always talk about my swiping behaviors because it really is almost just like chewing gum for me. I'm not paying attention. I'm swiping. And every so often somebody will catch my eye. But I challenge myself to go ahead and get back in that space. Not because I want a man again. No time soon because I'm really enjoying myself. But because I said maybe if I interact when I'm not trying to date somebody seriously, maybe I will have a better response. Maybe I will have more fun in this. Versus being frustrated that this ain't the one, or frustrated that this didn't go nowhere, or frustrated that all men are stupid and all dogs don't go to heaven. I thought, why don't I just say, hey, I'm gonna put myself back here in the pool, however it goes, how it go. I ain't trying to have no boyfriend right now anyway. So I'm sure we'll have many updates from that process as well. But I'm back in there. So that's my life update. Can y'all please ask your friend that you're looking at or listening to over there with me to tell her to get her content contributions up? That means you're going to have a whole lot more bad dates to catch up to me.
We still got some old ones in the can that we haven't shared. So
this is true. There is always more in the can. When you are working on Oh No Girl, you're like, did I ever talk about that time? And yeah, sadly, we have a lot. So anyway, that's my life update. I appreciate all of y'all's love, concern, and prayers, but we good over here. We good. And of course, I'm sure I'm praying that story will end there. Where the story goes on is as I am meeting new people, seeing the immediate juxtaposition from when someone likes you versus when they don't. And that's kind of been a refrain I've been jokingly sharing with Robin is, ooh, girl, this new guy said this. And I'll say, ooh, my boyfriend didn't like me. Oh, he didn't like me. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you got to realize somebody don't like you. And that's okay too. As long as you like yourself. And I do. All right. I think that's it for now. That's funny because now I'm going to make notes of what all I didn't say.
No. I don't even know if it was intentional or not. I just know how people can receive something if they don't know the full story. And it's not like we can sit here and tell y'all about.
I can't tell y'all everything.
But just know it's not.
Yeah.
But just know it's not a surface level issue.
Yeah, it wasn't just texts and phone calls, and it wasn't just showing up late. It wasn't just the coat from Costco. It wasn't just asking me to leave early. It wasn't just it wasn't just.
In case that wasn't enough for you.
I would say there's more, obviously deeper, more meaningful stuff. But I probably will make notes of some of those moments so that way we can talk about the greater themes or lessons learned for myself. Because that's all we can do is we can't just say, oh, this person did this to me. It's about what about you allowed it, what about you stayed, and what can you learn and grow from moving forward. We want to be, action oriented here on the podcast. And we talk about these relationships. If you're new to the podcast and new to the year 2021, we talk about these things, want to take power from the pain and laugh about it. And a lot of times people are embarrassed that their relationships haven't worked out or embarrassed that they're single again. And we want y'all to know that it happens to all of us. All we can do is talk about it, learn from it, and keep living. So that's the whole point of this anyway. So we always gonna tell y'all when that thing don't work out. So make sure you tune in to the next episode of Oh No, He Didn't.
Girl, yes, he did.
He did.